Caesar remembers when there was like Uber. Like,
but Caesar's dead.
I know, but I'm just saying, Caesar's dead 300 years ago. These guys couldn't have like, they live in stick huts again.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
And this is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things founded in popular culture. Today, we will, of course, be doing a full hour, maybe 2 hour long deep dive into the hit Netflix film Unfrosted, starring Funny Man, not problematic, everyone loves him, Jerry Seinfeld. Cory, what were your thoughts on Unfrosted?
Is that the one Unfrosted? I don't know what it is. And I don't care to know what it is. Is it just like another like weird capitalist thing that we're doing, kind of the vibe like that? Or like a bad version of Blackberry?
Genuinely didn't watch it.
Okay.
Blackberry does slap though. Thank you Cory, for shouting out Blackberry.
I'm just saying though, like this, somebody pointed out this weird trend we're doing in media where we're like kind of like following and rooting for capitalism.
Well, I think it's unfair, as somebody who did not watch Unfrosted and will never see Unfrosted.
No, we're never going to watch it.
I think it's unfair to lump Blackberry into the same basket.
I'm thinking more of like as Air, I think is my other one.
I think Air is a better
And the Cheeto movie. The Cheeto movie is probably
the what movie?
The Cheeto movie.
I'm quickly
the one about they fucking got nominated.
The one that got nominated for Oscar.
Yes.
I didn't have to watch the movie, thankfully, because it only got nominated for the song. So I just listened to the song, and
it was fine.
Apologies to my Latin American brethren. I love you dearly. That song sucks. That song did not hit.
I was like, oh,
I can't believe we got nominated for an Oscar. It's not good. I mean, shout out to Eva Longoria, though. I mean, it's cool that she's directing now. I'm a big fan. I've always liked her as an actor, and I think her, like we talked about before, her.
Okay, so I'm looking at this now. This is basically the worst version of a Ford versus Ferrari, but focusing on Pop-Tarts?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's even weirder about it is Jerry Seinfeld, who has just spent the last, 3 years, just old man bitching that nobody can make jokes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, while he's banging a fucking 19-year-old fucking weirdo.
She's not 19 anymore.
oh yeah, okay. Everyone ages Che. What is she now, 20? Oh, that makes it so much better.
He's married to a 50-year-old.
Is he?
Which is still, I would argue, a bit young for a 70-year-old man. But
it's so weird that he's 70. Oh my god, that's a very weird Well,
he was in his
I know
30s during Seinfeld, right? But my point is that I think it's very weird that this guy who is beloved by many, not by me, I've never been a Seinfeld guy personally, but beloved by many, has decided to cash in his post-Seinfeld chips for 2 movies. The B movie, in which a human woman, voiced by Renee Zellweger, leaves her human husband, voiced by Patrick Warburton, to fuck a bee, voiced by Jerry Seinfeld, and then this movie that he wrote, directed, and starred in, which is the origin stories of the Pop-Tart, which I just can't imagine even the most sugar-addicted nut jobs give a shit about the origins of Pop-Tart. I could be wrong.
See, okay, here's what I thought it was about. I thought it was about somebody just getting fired for being like, we should make Pop-Tarts but unfrosted. And I thought that's what the movie was about. But this is I think that's stupider than what was created, obviously. But still, why waste time and money on this?
I mean, not just time and money, basically asked all of his friends to be in this. Have you seen the cast of Unfrosted?
No, I have not.
Melissa McCarthy, Amy Schumer, Hugh Grant, Jim Gaffigan, Christian Slater, James Marsden, Bill Burr, Max Greenfield, Rachel Harris, Maria Baklava, Thomas Lennon, Andy Daly.
What is he doing?
Felix Solis, Jack McBrayer, Dan Levy, Peter Dinklage, John Hamm, and apparently the worst cameo of all time when he comes back and basically takes a shit on his Don Draper character.
Oh no.
Tony Hale, Bobby Moynihan. I mean, just to name a few. The list goes on, including fucking Cedric the Entertainer. What's going on, Seinfeld?
It's just weird that he's done basically the B movie, a bunch of nothing, and then this. It's just very strange.
And then
career.
during his press tour for this was just like, nobody can be funny anymore. Maybe it's you, Jerry. Maybe you can.
Nah, man. Yeah, you just it's so yeah. Like it's. I mean, you know, when someone's not writing your jokes.
I have long lamented the state of American stand-up comedy, not because it's been destroyed by the woke mob like the white dudes like to pretend, but because I think it's just run by dudes like Jerry Seinfeld now who are old and rich and not funny. And I think it's really hard to be funny if you're 70 years old with $1 billion. I think it's just hard. I wouldn't know,
that, but But also, I think comedy is so much of like comedy is just such like a short cycle of things that work. Like things that would work 10 years ago don't work now.
Yeah, well, I don't know if.
And also, you're popular from a show. I think a majority. I think it still does. There are comedies that still do work, but I think a lot of comedy is like having The Hangover, which at the time was probably the funniest movie in theaters, which is like. I still
think Hangover, even though parts of it are certainly problematic. I mean, it's definitely back in the era where we were using the F word as just a throw around term.
What were we watching? Oh, Godzilla, where they just used the R
that
word.
was weird. The one in Godzilla was shocking.
It was like, geez, I haven't heard that word in forever.
Yeah, certainly there's like language that we don't use, but I think The Hangover is still really funny. I've watched a reason. I mean, I would think, speaking of like, I can't believe we're actually talking about him for us, but I actually think it's kind of fascinating how shit it is. But I was like, I went back and watched some of the early seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which are now 24 years old. It started in 2000. And the first seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think, are as funny, if not funnier, than some of the later ones. And I feel like,
I think that guy's a fucking. You have to be that good though to be like.
No, but I agree with you that I think but I also think a lot of comedy is about being able to turn real life into something relatable and humorous. And if your real life is, like you said, being a rich old dude who fucks 19-year-olds, who's gonna laugh at your joke other than your other rich white dude friends that you ride around in your stupid cars with and get coffee? Like, I just think that's the problem, is they're all surrounded by guys who think they're all funny, but none of them are funny to anybody else.
I think also just stating that I think Seinfeld's not that great of a show.
You were gonna get a lot of hate for that, but I'm
okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's I just don't know. I tried a lot, and I just was like, you know what? I can understand some of it, but I would just watch the George Costanza show. Like that's fine.
I think Costanza's funny. I actually do. I think
everybody
really hard for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think she's really funny.
Okay, those two. But every time I see Kramer, I'm like, you said the N word a lot on stage once, and I can't get it out of my head. And every time I see someone with the Kramer show, like my brain is like, I know it's not the same. I know it's not the character, but I'm like, he just acts so much like it's just like I just.
But even talking about Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I think Veep is like 1,000 times funnier than Seinfeld.
Yeah, Veep's great. Yeah.
But that's not what we're actually talking about today, despite the fact that we just spent about 5 minutes on it. We're going to be talking about a newish TV show from Apple, a sci-fi show starring Jennifer Connelly and Joel Edgerton called Dark Matter. We're going to be talking about I would say, strangely poorly received. Poorly received is not the right word. Strangely unsuccessful Fall Guy, which I thought was a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen it, which it doesn't sound like you did, based on the numbers, you should. And we're going to talk about why. We're going to be talking about a comic book that we checked in on for the first issue that recently ended its 6-issue miniseries run, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which is also a ton of fun. And then, of course, closing with the #1 movie in America, Until Furiosa, I'm sure, topples it, The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And as we always do, just a couple points of business before we jump in. Don't forget, follow us at Next Time On Pod all over the place, including over there on YouTube. This video, including all of our past episodes. Not all of them. I shouldn't say all of them. Past episodes for a long time. There's a lot of episodes over there on YouTube. You go check it out at Next Time On Pod. And you can check out our website, nexttimeon.net, where you can find all those episodes, all that writing, all that good stuff. A reminder, we've got 2 things coming up that you guys should be on the lookout for. We've got From Hell, the book club, the book by Alan Moore, which we'll be talking about sometime in June, probably early in June. And, of course, next week, we're going to be, as a tie-in to Kingdom of the Planet of Apes, talking about, I would say, inarguably, in I think, 11 Planet of the Apes movies, the worst Planet of the Apes movie is by far, and that is Tim Burton's 2000 Planet of the Apes. 2001 Planet of the Apes movie.
I did kind of fall down a rabbit hole after Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came out, and I was kind of curious about the franchise in general. We'll probably get more into it when we get to that episode, but it's just fascinating how long that film was in development hell, and that's what they left the film out on.
Yeah, I like you said, we're gonna get into it more. I think that movie for a lot of, especially kind of like Godzilla, what we talked about, where it's these two
It is like
filmmakers
Godzilla.
and these actors meeting at a very weird point to make like a pretty weird and bad movie. I think Tim Burton in 2001 is coming off a stretch of films that I think a lot of people, some of which I really enjoy, but I think a lot of people would call some of the one of the best runs in film history. I mean, just to wait a second, we're getting into it, but like this is the man who made fucking Batman 1989 and
Beetlejuice.
and Beetlejuice, which is coming, the sequel's coming out.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and Ed Wood, and then he made this movie. So we're gonna be talking about how that maybe happened.
Yeah.
But let's jump into some good stuff. First up, Corey, let's put a minute on the clock for you,
Sure.
and we'll do your elevator pitch and go.
The thing that I'm pitching is the beautifully bizarre film Boy Kills World, starring Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård primarily with the voice. How do I describe this film accurately? Bill Skarsgård is a mute martial artist who's intent on taking down a dystopic regime, while his narration is done by H. John Benjamin, mostly known for Archer and Bob's Burgers.
I didn't know that.
The film feels like a fever dream because it basically is the entire time, but I thought the choreography and the amount of fun that kind of seems to happen within it is just truly enjoyable. I think the directing is just a lot of fun. It's like, it feels like for a while I haven't had a movie like this fun on a big screen, but I definitely feels like it fits into a weird category where I'm like, I was surprised this wasn't streaming, but at the same time I'm happy it's not, because it feels a little bit like a notch above a Netflix movie, but almost close to it. But fun film. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I hadn't actually gotten to see it yet. It hit digital like a couple days ago, so I'm definitely probably gonna watch it this weekend. But it was one of those movies that was like kind of hard to see. Weirdly, it wasn't playing in a ton of theaters near me. There wasn't a ton of showtimes, and it came out in a week that was really jam packed. If it had come out last week, I didn't go to the theater a single time last week, and then the week before that, I went to the theater 7 times.
Yeah.
So it just came out like a pretty inopportune time and disappeared from theaters pretty quickly. But I am looking forward to it. It looks really fun. I like Bill Skarsgård a lot. I think that guy's pretty underrated.
And it's like he's just not. It's like he does a really good job without saying anything. I thought that was like a very like fun way to do a mute character. I'm surprised he like
It's like the
wanted
opposite
to do
of
that.
what was that movie you really hated with your boy Silent Night?
It is the opposite of Silent Night because H. John is just like, it's like at first I'm like, is that I don't take my phone out in theaters. I never do that, but I had to check because it was bothering the fuck out of me the entire time. I'm like, is this? Because you can kind of hear the Archer every once in a while with it. It's a very strange, a lot of strange choices in the film where I don't think it's a like. I don't even know how to classify it. I think it's something that should be watched. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I think it's a very enjoyable time.
I'm excited for it. I will. Like I said, I'll watch this weekend.
All right, so what you got?
Speaking of fun movies that you guys can watch at home, like right now, actually, I just like I said, I went to the. I think I said this on our Godzilla episode that I bought like 7 tickets for 5 days. Most of those movies were really good. One of those movies I saw was Challengers, which was not good. But the one I'm pitching today is by far my favorite. The girls and the gays aren't gonna like that I said that.
No, they're
I
not.
thought that movie was fucking terrible.
Oh no, I haven't seen it yet. Do not come for me.
You can come for me, that's fine.
I just fucking hated that trailer. I will go on record. That was probably the worst trailer I've ever seen in my life.
The movie that I'm actually pitching, though, is a 1967 French noir film by
You fucking hipster.
by Jean-Pierre Melville, a movie that I actually had never heard of before, and they just did a 4K re-release, and the Theater by Me, the AFI, is showing a bunch of recent 4K re-releases, which is really sick. I saw a lot of really cool movies, but this one was like a revelation. It's called Les Samurai, and that translates to The Samurai, in case you were wondering. And it's the story of like a hitman where a job goes wrong, and then he has to go down and he has to go track, who hired him and what was going on and all this. It's this great, really tightly made, beautifully shot, beautifully acted, like it feels like it's got all the classics of noir. And then it's got the touch of that 1960s French cinema. When I was watching it, I kept thinking like, is this a Jacques Tati movie? Who I love Jacques Tati, and it makes sense because he's like a slightly earlier contemporary of Melville, and they have a lot of the same techniques that I think you guys should watch this movie in theaters if at all possible. It's doing a lot of rounds around the country with the 4K release, like I said, but if you can't, it's available on Max and I think the Criterion channel. I think you should really check this. It's hour and a half, like quick in and out, really, really fun. And don't be scared off by the fact that it's from 1967. It doesn't feel old at all. Really contemporary, really beautifully shot. I highly recommend. Love this movie a lot.
I want to check it out. It's definitely, I've added it to my, I got my big old list of films to watch before school this year, and I've added that to it, which is over 100 films. So it's going to be, I think I might be going like truly insane.
I think you'll really fuck with
September.
it because you love mysteries, and this is like, it's got
I do
really
love mysteries, and it's,
vibe.
dude, I love that, and I love that shit. Let me just make sure it's on my fucking list.
And for those of you who don't know Melville also, I think, is probably most famous for Army of Shadows, and that's probably his most famous movie. Another really great, like meticulously paced French drama. That one's a war drama versus this is like I said, a noir detective film. But I honestly, I don't know how I never heard of this thing. I saw it, and they were, because usually what they do with the 4K restorations at this theater is they play them like once or twice in a week, and this one had a full week run, which is what caught my attention. I was like, it must be banging, and it was absolutely banging. Highly recommend.
Well, no shit. I mean, I'm excited for her to knock that out. I probably will bump it up my list just because there's so much in there, Che.
Yeah. I saw some really. I saw the Three Colors trilogy got 4K releases. The Alamo Webby was showing those. I love the Three Colors trilogy. I'd seen those before. Nostalgia, the Tarkowski movie, really good. And like I said, I saw Challengers, which I thought was like a miserable hang. But then I did see Evil Does Not Exist, which I thought was so weird and fascinating, and I want to watch it again like 1,000 times. It's the newest film from Ryosuke Hamaguchi, who made Drive My Car, the recent Oscar winner from Japan, and this is
it a horror film?
No. It's not a horror film. It's I honestly genuinely don't know how to describe it. It is a drama, and it's like a pretty normal examination of life in a small Japanese town for about 99.9% of the movie. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to. I think you should absolutely watch it. Everybody listening to this should watch it. It is one of the more confounding theater experiences I've had in a while. I'll just say that. I walked out. I texted you immediately. I was like, Corey, you need to watch this movie because I need to talk about it. And I haven't gone back to watch it yet. I've just been kind of busy, but I'm going to try to get it in this weekend too, again, to see it again. I find Hamaguchi to be like a really interesting filmmaker. This is kind of the opposite of most of his films, where they're usually like 7-hour-long epics of human melodrama. And this one is an hour and 40-minute, very calm film for most of it. But, yeah, I saw a lot of really good stuff this
okay. I will be sure to add that to my ever-growing list, Che. But I'm excited. I thought it was a horror film. And
it's
I was
not a horror
film.
No, it's not a horror film.
No, but you sent me. I'm like, you go to see horror films? What the hell are you talking about?
I'll see a good horror film.
Of course. But,
yeah, I've said before on this podcast, I don't love seeing horror films in theaters because I think unless it's like
I don't because I'm a
highly
coward.
Recommended. I don't love a jump scare, as we said on this podcast, but I think the thing about the theater experience for horror movies for me that's annoying is that it's probably the genre of movie that is most easily ruined for me by a bad audience.
That's fair.
If I'm not absorbed by the film, if there's some dickhead on his phone in front of me or somebody talking next to me, I'm just like, it's going to ruin the entire experience of the movie. Versus like, that ruins a lot of movies for me, but if I'm in like a fun action movie and somebody's on their phone for a bit, it's like, okay,
that's not that bad.
I hate
like,
you.
I had someone behind me like were kind of chatting during Fall Guy, and I'm like, it didn't bother me that much, and I'm like, it's fine, whatever. But
yeah.
It was mostly them just going over how hot they thought Ryan Gosling was the entire time, and I'm like, we all are here together. We know
it's true. You're not breaking a new ground, being like, I think Ryan Gosling's pretty hot. But
yes.
Shall we talk about a thing that really, really, really bothered you?
Sure.
Apple TV's newest show, or 4 episodes in. It is Dark Matter.
Is this about halfway through?
I actually have no idea.
Hold on, I think I might
I
actually.
have no idea. It could be.
There's 9 episodes in this, and I'm surprised by that because I'm sorry. There's 9 episodes of it, and we're in episode 4 by the time of this recording.
So Dark Matter is the newest show from Blake Crouch, who. Blake Crouch is actually a pretty. Looking at this is a new name to me. He's mostly an author. He wrote the Wayward Pine trilogy, which I have heard of, but I've never read. And then he wrote the book, Dark Matter. This is based off of. But he also created the show, so he's a first-time showrunner, as far as I can tell. Directed by Jacob Verbugen, the first 3 episodes, and then the most recent one is directed by Celine Held and Logan George. All 4 episodes, all four of the first episodes written by Crouch himself.
So today we are going to do a pop quiz. Tear out a piece of paper from your notebooks, write your name at the top, and the numbers 1 through 10 down the margin. Yeah.
No one really uses notebooks anymore. I just have my laptop.
What's on your screen right now? What's on your screen?
YouTube.
You fail.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
I only brought a laptop too.
What are you watching? You fail. Everyone else who only has a laptop or a device, you fail. You know what? Wait. Good luck.
I will say this. I really like this show at moments. I think there are parts of this show that I really enjoy. Those parts are... Well, I should say what the concept is for those.
Yeah,
parts.
please. Yeah, good.
The concept is basically there is a guy, Jason Dessen, played by Joel Edgerton, who is living like a pretty normal life. He's a college physics professor. He has a wife and kid at home, Daniela, played by Jennifer Connelly. His son, Charlie, played by Oaks Fegley, who I've never seen before. I actually really like this kid. He's pretty good. And then one day, he gets kidnapped by a masked man who steals his phone and cell phone on his way back from a bar and drops him in an entirely different world. And in this world, Jason Dessen is not a college professor with a beautiful wife and child, but is actually a co-CEO of a shadow science company that has made a box that can travel through dimensions. As with all sci-fi, when you say it out loud, it just sounds so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But listen, if I fucking laid out the plot to Dune to you right now.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Space
as
Jesus?
you notice, I've been very quiet about it. I'm not poking holes in because it's sci-fi. Listen, it's fine.
And that starts basically starts the show where. What we should decide what we're gonna call this. I've been calling him Good Jason, Evil Jason. Do you want to stick with that?
I think that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so this starts to show where good Jason is trying to get back to his home world that evil Jason has basically taken over his life. He's moved in with his wife and kid. He's sort of started to do his job and then quit his job, and is going to make the box again. I guess
I don't know.
That part's not super clear. But Corey,
Yeah, man.
does not like it.
No, it is truly made my skin crawl for 3 episodes. I binge watched the first 3 episodes, and I watched the 4th episode this week. Truly,
It's funny because the part of the show that you hated the most is probably the part that I liked the most.
truly one of the most horrific experiences I've ever actually had while watching something. I had anxiety the entire fucking
so
time.
crazy to me,
Because,
man.
I mean, like, he fucking took over his fucking life, man. And it's just...
Just to be clear, one of Corey's top 10 movies, as far as I remember from last year, was the horror movie Talk to Me.
Yes. Yeah. No. And I think that was a...
I'm just
That was
joking.
a truly skin-crawling just horror. Because, The problem, okay, my first problem with the show, and this is just from a show standpoint, is they really, I don't know how you market this show without it, but knowing the reveal made the entire first episode just take a long ass time, because I'm like, I know what's going to happen. Like, I mean, like, I know that he's a duplicate, and I think that's like...
See, that's interesting, because I didn't know anything about the show except for it popped up on the Apple homepage, and I was like, oh, I love Joel Edgerton.
I just saw...
Which actually, once you're done, and I'll let you go.
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I love Joel Edgerton. I think he's super underrated. I think we should talk about it.
Absolutely.
But continue.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw the poster, and I saw the title of it, so I'm like, oh, it's going to be multiverse, some shenanigans like that. And as soon as it got being like somebody's like kidnapping and we can't see his face, and like, that's him.
Well, I will say I don't think they were trying to.
No, they weren't.
Twist. Like, it was pretty clear, even as somebody who didn't know what the concept of the show was, that when he was starting to get kidnapped, the guy took his phone and watch and sounded kind of like him. I was like, oh, okay, so this is like...
Okay, but so they did that, and then we had a whole extra episode of him, like, dealing with that. But it just felt like those 2 episodes could have just been smushed together a bit quicker, because I feel like it was just 2 hours of me being like, oh my god, just get to the fucking show at this point. And I thought the 3rd episode was finally like, okay, I'm okay with this. This is like kind of something a bit more interesting. But I thought those 2 episodes were just a rough start. And just everything, every time Evil Jason was on screen, and just seeing how he's slowly just destroying his life and also sleeping with his wife, and like it just all of it is just so evil. It is just...
Well, we don't call him Evil Jason.
It's just, but it's just so evil, and it's just like kind of like... It's like this person is just a fucking psychopath, and it's like, is this other guy like I don't know if I agree with the whole like one decision does everything, because this guy just seemed like a fucking psycho in comparison to the other guy who seemed like a pretty normal dude.
Well, I think there is. I think that's the thing that I found most interesting about the show, which is why I like the first 2 episodes. And actually, my favorite scene so far in the entire show, and that's why I was a bit disappointed. Sorry, we're gonna be spoiling like 1 through 4 pretty hard. I don't think it actually will ruin your experience of the show.
No, I mean, like, if you know what the show is about, it's basically just like, yeah, it's this guy takes over this other guy's life, and good Joel's trying to get his life back, while Joel 2 is taking his life apart slowly. And people are starting...
But my favorite scene in the first 4 episodes is the scene where good Joel is in evil Joel's world, and he goes to find Daniela. Sorry, not Joel. Well, yes, Joel, sorry. But good Jason. Good Jason is in evil Jason's world and goes to find Daniela. And in that world, they are not together because as Cory said, the one like split for them where this choice was is that Daniela and Jason were together, I guess like however old Charlie is, 16 years ago, 16 years in the past, and she got pregnant and comes to Jason. They weren't married or anything, not intentionally pregnant, and comes to Jason and says, like, should I keep it or not? And the good Jason says keep it. They get married, they form a life together, and they live. They're together 17 years later. And evil Jason says don't keep the baby, and that ruins that ends their relationship. They split apart. They don't really see each other. They're like kind of friendly enough to the point where that when good Jason shows up at her art show, she's not like upset to see him. She actually says she's really happy to see him. And that is the part that is like the inciting event of why these 2 guys are different. I think that the show has interesting stuff to say about. I don't know if it's delving enough into it right now, but I think the idea that like 17 years of regret can turn you into something unrecognizable from yourself is an interesting idea, and that evil Jason is like there's this part of him that finally snapped, and he's like, I need to get back to that life, and obviously. There's a victim. There's not a victimless crime, so that makes him evil. But the desire to retrieve that happy life that he has is literally the same thing that's happening to good Jason right now. Is that he's trying to get this happy life that he had once back, and that's why I said my favorite scene is that moment when good Jason is talking to Daniela in evil Jason's world, and they're sort of like falling in love again. That's why I loved episodes 1 and 2, and I thought that show was the most interesting thing to me, which is like this guy has this world that he loved, his wife and child, and then he finds a new world that is different, but sort of he seems to have like a sort of happiness there. When she dies, that's the part I was like, okay, so it's a different
Why
show
did
than I was into.
I mean, I think if
well, because I guess that's the thing is it's just a different show than I thought it was.
See, I think my thing is like I just didn't enjoy the first show that much. Like the first like show they were doing to me, I'm like,
see, I really liked
it. Was just like I was just waiting for something interesting to happen. I just kind of felt like I was watching, and I'm like, there's nothing. It was really nothing exciting to me.
You didn't find the dichotomy of those two characters interesting.
Not particularly, no, because it just kind of felt like your evil versions in your world. You're kind of seeing them fuck around and do that shit like that. Maybe trip up every once in a while. And then you're in a whole set. It just didn't feel like they were doing anything new. And I think that was my big thing about what I was like.
Yeah,
I
think it's hard to do new shit, though.
It is hard to do new shit. I just kind of felt it was very like, nothing really surprised me in it particularly that much. I think
I 100% agree. I don't think.
And I think the only thing that surprised me was like them killing good this Jennifer Connelly too was a bit of like a misstep to me because I'm like, why did you kill off her? Like I thought that would have been like a very interesting dynamic. Yeah. I get why they did it, but also another part of me was just disappointed that we're losing that relationship or that kind of conversation. Because I especially feel like Jennifer Connelly, I'm assuming they'll probably give her more to do. I thought she was doing a lot more and having a lot more fun playing that version of herself. And as you said,
yes,
and I think
that's a more interesting version of Daniela. But I think that's kind of the point of the characters. And we see that in this most recent episode is that Jason is trying to like. I think he realizes that this is actually not exactly the happy life he wanted, because he, as you said, he's slowly dismantling good Jason's life to become close to evil Jason's life. He's even telling Daniela, he's like, you should go start doing your painting again.
Yeah, he's still like
because that's. I mean. We see that they're two very different people, which is what I mean. You have a kid, you become a different person, and this is, I think Jason is trying to evil Jason is trying to turn this Daniela and this world into his world, which I think is kind of the point of the show is that you can't really obtain this.
You can't. Well, also like
a grass is always greener idea.
Exactly. Well, I think that's very true, but also I like. And I think that's actually a very interesting way to look at it because it's like he's trying to force upon what he thinks makes people happy, but it's probably also like an indication on why he just wasn't able to achieve the happiness in the first place. Like he just has a super misunderstanding about what these people had and what made them happy. Like, and like, I mean, that's what even Jason was like, it was difficult. Like good Jason's like, it's difficult, but yeah, we're happy. And I think evil Jason's like comes in like, oh, I think you guys are living your life wrong and let me fix it for you. And obviously I think that's going to be like the unbecoming of his like character, obviously. And I mean, I'm assuming at least at the end of episode 4 was like, Jennifer Connelly started like catching on a lot quicker than I thought she was. I was going to be like, oh, it's going to take forever. But I'm actually happy to see that like the son and the wife. And I think this show lives and dies on. And I think familiar relationships and like personal relationships is something that I do enjoy seeing explored in a much more healthy way. And it's like, it's better than having the constant like relationship where they're like, oh, it's like him and her are on the outs initially. Then he gets kidnapped and this other guy woos her back over again. But it's more like these two people were people and they were married and they were happy and they're happy being who they are.
Well, that's the thing is I loved about the first, like, I guess episode 2 and 3 for a bit is that there's a moment where like Daniela's actually thinks she's happier or not think she's happier with evil Jason because there's this honeymoon period. Yeah. Because there's like
I think she even calls it out on him too. I think she says something
like, she says something like you're trying to sleep with me again or something. When he's like buying wine and they had that party that he's really nice to all their friends and is performing like the good husband role. But then, like you said, it's pretty quick. It becomes clear to her that something is off. Will she come to the conclusion that her husband's been replaced by an alternate version of him from another reality? I think probably not. No. But I know her and the son are like something. I mean, there's a scene where her and the son are in the house before evil Jason gets home. And Charlie says something to them.
And I gotta say, I was trying to separate myself away from the concept because I just don't enjoy this kind of sci-fi. I think this is one of my irrational fears in general. I don't like doppelgangers. I think that shit's scary. I don't like environments people don't know who you are. They're gaslighting you. And I just got so much anxiety from the first 2 episodes that I pushed myself through it. I got through it, but I did not have a fun time in that shit. Did not have a good time. Had a really bad time, I think, actually. But I think if you're honestly okay with that kind of anxiety, you're not a crazy person like me, I don't think it's a bad show. I think I'm surprised how cheap it looks for an Apple TV show. I think
the Apple TV money spout has turned off. That's not like a thing anymore.
I thought
they're not shelling out.
No.
They will pay actors a lot, but I don't think they're I mean, I think what really happened, and shout out to the 6 fans of this show, is that they spent about $7 trillion making 2 seasons of Foundation that looks incredible, but is essentially trash sci-fi.
A lot of people watch that show. I was surprised.
They love it. Listen, no,
I tried. I tried.
I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but
I was just like,
I think Apple looked at the return on that show and was probably like, okay, so we dumped infinite amounts of money in this. It looks better than like almost any other TV show on TV, and nobody cares. Like, the critics do not think this show is that good. The audience response has not been that strong among some, apart from some pretty strong fans. And they just made the call that, like, basically what we need to do is probably make a lot more shows like Dark Matter, which has 2 big names, and maybe shell up a lot of money up front. And then
I mean,
I think there's a reason that this guy, they got an unknown showrunner to make this. I mean, Blake Burrows, like we already said, this is like a first time doing this. But attached Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly, who, like I said, I would love to talk about Joel Edgerton for a bit, because I think this guy is super underrated.
Everyone go watch Warrior right fucking now.
Warrior, I mean, yeah, that's the thing is, I think he has, over the last 24 years, this millennium, he has 5 or 6 incredible performances. I think about recently, Master Gardener, a movie that I did not like. I think is, like, in a lot of ways the beginning of the unraveling of Paul Schrader, who is maybe losing it a bit. And I think Master Gardener is a misstep in almost every way, except for Joel Edgerton is so fucking good, he almost holds it together. But I also think, have you ever seen The Gift, Cory?
I've not.
So The Gift is the 2015 thriller starring Joel Edgerton, directed by Joel Edgerton, which I think is he's also an underrated director. The movie is shot really well with Jason Bateman. Really cool thriller. I won't spoil it. I think people who haven't seen this really see it. You also shouted out Warrior, obviously, which is that the last, like, legendary Tom Hardy performance? I mean, I suppose Fury Road. I don't credit his performance in Fury Road, but
he's kind of just vibing in Fury Road though.
I'm rooting so hard for bike riders, Cory. You have no idea.
I was like, nobody can have a regular nose anymore. Why is that such a weird? It's just like the common, like, Hollywood thing, being like, you know what? I'm a serious actor. Give me a fake nose.
Which is funny because
a lot of them don't need it.
Well, it's a fucking bit from Ocean's 13, which is from 2007. The Matt Damon character puts a fake nose on as like a bit. This is like a stupid thing that actors do, and we're still doing it. We're still doing it 17 years later.
Bradley Cooper, Tom Hardy, The Rock is fucking doing one with a fake nose right now by one of the Safdies. Don't ask me. I don't know much about it. I just saw a picture.
The Rock in a Safdie movie is fascinating.
A24.
I know they have this real interesting connection with celebrity. I mean, obviously, Uncut Gems, they really, like, turned the Adam Sandler narrative around for a bit. I'll be interested to see. I don't think The Rock is a good actor.
I don't think so either. But I would listen, I never root for anything to be bad, so that would be an interesting thing. Also, I liked Iron Claw. I just saw that, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I liked Iron Claw a lot.
Iron Claw's good. It wasn't as fucking depressing as I thought it was.
I was happy. I was happy as how not destroying it was. I still was crying like a fucking baby at the very end, but like,
no, it's very sad. God, but I thought this was gonna be like, it was gonna ruin.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, no, I thought I think that's probably one of the better ways to do that type of film. But that's not what we're talking about now. But God, the scene at the end where he's sitting on the lawn is like harrowing.
Yeah,
Zac Efron, good fucking actor.
He is. I think Zac Efron has actually always been a good actor. He did not manage to shake the High School Musical stink the way that Robert Pattinson managed to shake the Twilight stink as well. But I actually think I think Robert Pattinson is a better actor. To be very clear. But I think Zac Efron is actually pretty underrated.
He was a fucking great villain in Neighbors. Like, truly, like, it's a funny movie.
Neighbors is a high key underrated.
It's a funny movie. But, like,
he's really
there's
good.
just a turn in his character where he just says, I don't remember what he says, but it was so sinister. I'm like, oh my God, you're like horrifying.
The scene at the end where he's like an Abercrombie and Fitch greeter, it's actually like pretty dramatic acting. I think Zac Efron's problem, and whether or not it's up to him or not, I don't know what movies he's getting offered, is that he makes really weird decisions. I mean, did you watch Ricky Stenicki?
No, of course not.
I don't know, Corey.
That movie
Don't say of course. Not to
okay,
me.
yeah.
You text me and be like, I watched this dog shit movie.
When was the last time I did that? Don't say Roadhouse. Besides Roadhouse.
Okay. If you don't say besides Roadhouse, that movie came out like 4 months ago.
Like a month ago, actually.
Okay.
And they're making a
It came
sequel,
out in March.
baby.
It came out in March, and they're making a sequel. It actually came out. It came out the day after Ricky Stenicki, so you can watch both of them back to back on Amazon Prime.
Nah, man, Amazon. I'm about to cancel my fucking Amazon, but that's a conversation for later.
For a different day. Yeah. Listen. Like I said, I really like the show. Corey's expressed why he doesn't like the show, and I understand that. I will say, like I said, I don't think it's perfect, but I also have. It's not like a.
I do have notes.
But I get turned off by like the sci-fi stuff in this. The don't try to explain this.
Yeah,
to me
it's
all
all
this
nonsense.
Is not real science.
It's all
don't
nonsense.
try to do it.
Like the whole
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I think it took like I think my another problem with the show is it just feels like it's going so slow. At some points where I'm like, I just kind of feel like, oh, we learned something, but it was like 40 minutes of learning this, and I feel like you put things in there that I'm like, oh, the actor who played like the guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, like Leighton, I think.
Jimmy Simpson.
Well, Jimmy.
Deo Akanyemi.
Yeah, and he's playing he's playing like Leighton. I'm like, oh, this character's still like around. Like, no offense to that guy, but I'm like, I kind of thought his character served a purpose already, and I am wondering.
Yeah, when evil Leighton gets in the box,
I was like, why?
Confused.
Yeah, I was like,
I will say that part I was not.
Like, I'm okay with.
There hasn't been a payoff, and maybe the payoff will be worth it. But I'm with you that I thought that we were good, that we could have left him, that version of him, in the other world.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need that. I mean, fuckboy Leighton is like at least understandable from the story perspective, but even the whole I need some more.
I love that they gave him frosted tips. It's so fucking.
It was just like that was his character. Like, how do we know he's a fuckboy? He's drinking scotch at like noon. He has frosted tips, and he just has a naked man on his couch. And I'm like, you know what? Let him live his best fuckboy life, I guess. Now he's getting dragged into this weird ass. Couldn't be me. Could not be me. I would not follow Joel Egerton and do weird drugs in a fucking room with him. That guy's fucking nuts. That entire scene is fucking crazy. Like, come to me in this weird hangar, take some drugs.
I think
get in this box.
These characters that I actually think there's clever parts of the show that's written, but I agree parts of it are a little bit underwritten. But I actually like because that scene where he's willingly following this guy who he hasn't actually seen in years into a hangar, into a dark box, drinking drugs that he doesn't know anything about. That scene comes shortly after we see the other version of him leave his homeworld and say there's nothing else, there's nothing here for me in this world. I think this Leighton. Well, I think the idea is that this guy Leighton doesn't have, he's pretty depressed and lonely.
And I do think it was actually a good idea as a way to show, from another perspective, why he was trying to do this, trying to use the box though. But
I also think it's supposed to suggest that the only thing this guy has.
I think we need a flashback
Jason.
or something, because I
hate a flashback.
I hate a flashback too, but it's so much of why did evil Jason just go into why didn't he explain to Leighton how this shit works? A lot of questions that I have concerning things like that. It's little things, but I'm
I think we will get answers to.
I think so too, and I think I'm gonna finish it out of pure curiosity. But I think it's fine, and that's my rating on it. I did not like it in the beginning. I think it's fine. And if you want to watch something sci-fi related, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch it, but I think it's fine.
I certainly like it more than Corey.
Yes, you do.
But I would also say it's not the best thing on TV. So I won't go that far. We haven't said Alice Braga's name, but I think we should just mention she's.
Oh yeah, she's great. Sorry, yeah. Alice Braga's great. Everyone in it is great. I want more Jimmy Simpson because I just love that guy.
Yeah, they're pretty disappointingly underused. Although the nature of his two characters now, I don't know how he's going to be back in this show.
No, I don't. I think he's I'm surprised Jimmy Simpson basically was kind of written off of the show, and Leighton was a character that stayed around.
Yeah.
So I figured that I got to imagine Jimmy's going to come back around again because he's just that's a weird science plot hole, and you kind of need a good person with a scientific background in that world.
Well, he essentially.
What was his science?
By all accounts, built the box.
Yeah, he just did the drugs for it, right? That's basically.
Yeah.
So I think.
He did the.
He built the
neuro drugs.
Yeah, he built the bullshit whatever drugs. What is more bullshit sounding, this or Inception?
I actually. I kind of think this is, because there was portions of the show where I was like, they should have just made this a fantasy show, just call it magic, and I actually think this is probably more easy to
Yeah,
connect.
it's like the drugs just feels
Trying to explain this thing with science is actually really silly.
like I don't know why it had to be like drugs involved. Really, it's just I don't know. It just feels
Well, because I think this guy Crouch probably read
I mean,
a
that's how it
couple
always-
of physics books and was like, there's probably some theory out there that the thing that is stopping humans from being placed in the Schrodinger cat situation, whose name I can't remember.
How does the box work? Sorry.
Does it? I don't know. I don't. I'm just thinking, who cares?
I don't care.
I don't care how the box.
I don't care how it works. It just fucking annoys me that I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, yeah, but the fuck you talk? It's like sometimes I'm like, I don't care that much because I mean, listen, I watched all of his Dark Materials, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Whatever, it's fine.
Well, his Dark Materials is that's the thing is
It is fantasy, but
so
it likes to
just make it.
But
fantasy.
it likes to make bullshit every once in a while, which I do
Yes,
appreciate
yes,
about it. I like that show. I love the books. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. We've been on this for a minute. Let's move on.
Been on this for a bit. Yeah, let's talk about the Fall Guy, which has hit your TV recently. Despite the fact that you all should have seen this in theaters, it was a ton of fun. Corey and I both really liked it.
Really liked it. It was truly, I think it was exactly what it wanted to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. I'm gonna look up the box office.
So
really
I
quick.
think
I am pretty surprised that people did not see this.
I do think it came out in a really weird time where I don't remember what was before it, but I think it was like that film, and then I think maybe Planet of the Apes was the week after that. So I think it was like in a really weird timing of coming out.
Well, we're gonna talk about Planet of the Apes later, but I am surprised in the other direction of how successful Planet of the Apes has been, because I would have bet if somebody asked me which of these two May movies is gonna flop and which of them is gonna make a ton of money, I would have thought Fall Guy, which I thought had a good trailer, had two really bankable stars. Ryan Gosling obviously coming off of a huge like end of 2023 with Barbie and into the award season. He's been pretty public. And then Emily Blunt is, she's beloved everywhere. And then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which stars essentially nobody, not nobody, but like no big names, is a movie with a bunch of apes and a woman whom I would say most people had probably never heard of, and is another reboot of the Apes movies, which I thought I'm not rooting on anybody's failure, but I would have bet that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes would have flopped and Fall Guy would have done really well, and it's kind of been the opposite.
See, it's like when I was watching Fall Guy, I kind of like understood, I think, a bit why it didn't necessarily work in a way, because I think it was a good trailer, but I don't know if it was like the right trailer really. And I was gonna see it no matter what. 'Cause, I mean, I like the director. I thought it looked funny. I mean, obviously, it's a movie that was kind of meant for
we are
us.
big David Leitch fans.
Yes,
on this podcast.
it's like a movie meant for us, and I felt like I told you, I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted. Like this is
kind of how Bullet Train did, to be honest.
I think that's
Bullet Train was a bit different though, because Bullet Train, I think, at least sold itself as more of a hardcore action movie, despite the fact that it also starred a big star in Brad Pitt. But Bullet Train didn't do great. But the reviews for Bullet Train also were worse than Fall Guy though.
But I feel like you know what I hate about, I'm about to say this right now. Fall Guy is a plain movie, and I don't like saying that, but I think Fall Guy is like, unfortunately, like a plain movie. Like Bullet Train is the same kind of category where I think it'll probably pick up more steam at home, but I think like that's what I think movies have become like, basically like they're like have to be events. Like there's like the conversation has to be had about it. And the thing about Fall Guy,
we are really witnessing the end of cinema.
I know it is. But like I'm as the guy who's going to let me just not go down that existential rabbit hole right now. But I just feel like with Fall Guy, it's like you have to like Ryan Gosling, you have to like Emily Blunt, but you have to also be like, this isn't a movie. You're going to a movie for fun. That's it. You're not going for like the conversation we had afterwards. You're not going because everyone else is going to see it. And I think the reason that Planet of the Apes did so well is that it basically had a 7-year simmer from a very solid trilogy that's been on streaming service forever. And I'm so like, I mean, I know a lot of people who have at least given at least one of those movies a chance. If you watch the second one, most people love that shit. And I think the trailer,
the Matt Reeves trilogy is really fucking good. I guess he only did
2 and 3.
The last two.
Yeah, which were, I mean, those were the better films, but
yes.
I think so. I mean, I've watched them all recently. I think the second film's like perfect.
I think the second film's by far the best one.
Yeah. The first one's good. Don't get me wrong.
I kind of ride for Dawn of the Planet. I know, and they're all really good. I kind of ride for Dawn of the Planet Apes.
Fucking
War of the
James
Planet Apes is just
Franco,
really
man.
like just an action movie.
It's a fucking prison break movie, The War of the Planet of the Apes. It's very just grim films.
I guess I would love to hear from people who intentionally went to the theater to go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and made the decision not to go see Fall Guy. And I'm curious to know what that decision was. I'm not saying that one was the right choice or the other, but I'm just curious because I thought that Fall Guy would be a pretty big hit, and
from the trailer, like
for a movie that's that good with that many stars, it's rare we see that.
I think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes just had a very solid trailer where it's like this is a continuation of this old, like they lean very hard into being like this is a continuation of the story years later. So I think in that people's minds like, oh, I want to see this, but I think in a way it marketed itself as such like a big kind of film that I think it kind of was just like, oh, this is like an event film in a way. Like this is like bring people in the theaters because they're going to want to talk about this kind of shit. And also I think there's kind of like, I think in a way it's just like a good franchise. Like that's why when the Marvel films were consistently good, people kept on going to see them because they were like, that last one was good and this one's going to be good. And I think that was the same mentality with it. It's like, I don't know about Fall Guy. This is like a random one-off movie. But I know these last couple Planet of the Apes movies are good. This is a layman thing. We obviously like be like, we know that we don't know the director, but like people are like, those last ones are good. This one looks similar. This will probably be good. And I think that's what people's like mentality was with it. Which is also like, that's why franchises aren't dead. People just people get burnt out by bad movies. It's kind of like, but that's a different rant. That's a different rant.
I suppose you're right. I find I find the juxtaposition of people being like, every movie is IP, this sucks, why don't they make more original stuff? And then this sort of thing happens. Although, to be fair, The Fall Guy is IP. It's based off like a pretty old TV show. But
I didn't know that. But no one fucking knew that.
Right, but it's essentially original storytelling.
It's just like, it's the concept is like very by itself. It's an original concept. But let's talk about how fucking fun this film was, though.
Yeah.
Truly just like a blast from start to finish. Probably like I think might be my like most fun I've had in the theater this year. Like I thought Boy Kills World was a very fun movie, but I thought this was like pure fucking just fun the entire time.
It's definitely up there. It's up there.
Is Ryan Gosling the funniest working? I know we had this conversation a lot in this podcast because we just haven't proven that we're big fans of him. But is he the funniest working actor in Hollywood currently?
Of like the big stars.
I'm just saying, like it's like I don't think I've seen him in any comedy he's ever done, comedic role.
It depends
he
on
kicks ass.
I think it depends a lot on your runway with Ryan Reynolds. But I think a lot of people are getting a little sick of him. Although I think that narrative is going to turn around Deadpool 3.
I think so because I mean, also I think he's also been a good Ryan Gosling. I mean, Ryan Reynolds did a very good idea of just kind of backing away for a while. I mean, he hasn't been in anything until If. Right?
I was gonna say he's currently in one of the biggest bombs of the year. If
said bomb,
that nobody saw.
Yeah, because it looks boring as shit. Like who the fuck wants to watch a Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends live action film?
Yeah, I don't pretend to understand what
the fuck is Krasinski
motivates
thinking?
Parents to take their because I think If looks about as bad as most children's movies.
Yeah, looks pretty shit.
Y'all fuckers love Bluey and Bluey sucks. So
whoa, Shane with a hot take against Bluey.
I watched a couple episodes of Bluey out of morbid curiosity. Maybe you have to have a kid to think that show isn't trash.
But I think
it's trash.
Okay, but I think the thing that works so well about Fall Guy is that you have Ryan Gosling, and Emily Blunt delivering
are just like they're so good.
Great chemistry between them. Fantastic. And I'm just like immediately like in a second I'm like, oh, you guys just fuck again. Like just do it. Like it's okay. Like we will watch it. It's fine.
That is the one part of the movie that I was like I didn't believe is that the second he's on the beach, they're like clearly want to jump each other. And you're like, how bad could you be?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy did almost die. You got to give him some leeway, but I mean, obviously cutting your loved ones off is that
like just going ghost on someone is not okay. Yeah. But I think what him and Emily Blunt are delivering very like this isn't like the dialogue isn't anything special, but the way these two are like delivering these very cliche and hokey lines at one another just makes this film like so fucking good. Like if it would just had like mediocre actors reading the script, it wouldn't be nearly as fun.
I also think the movie is camp in a way that is really successful, like really effective.
Yes.
I think it's not too over the top, which I find like a lot of these kinds of movies are. It's how I felt about Barbie at times, like especially in I think back a lot about that Will Ferrell scene. I think Barbie gets a bit out of the way. This is like Barbie for dudes a bit, so that's why I was thinking comparing them to like. I think this movie knows when to back off the camp.
I mean, also they have Emily Blunt basically dressed like Greta Gerwig for half the film,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
it's
they do. Yeah.
not too subtle there.
No, I think this is pretty. They're doing a lot of pretty intentional stuff, including the Taylor Swift sing along scene.
That Taylor Swift scene was fucking like. Listen, that was some funny fucking shit right there.
Yeah, I think this show or this movie was really, really. I think it was really, really well made and kind of the.
I think this film's gonna get like
casted was the.
I think this film's gonna get a lot of life on streaming and word of mouth.
Yeah,
I know it sucks.
Right. I think that's really sad.
It is sad. It does suck, but I think like this film is definitely gonna like do well in it, and it's also just it's a really nice like kind of like just seeing good action in a way that's not like tied to VFX really, and this is like just so much good practical and like I mean obviously they say a lot of it, but it's obviously just a love letter to the unsung heroes of all our action films. Yeah. And I mean, like, listen, I will always be on the team of this. They should have nominations.
I think it's next. I think
that's good. That's good.
I think casting this year, the Academy is just like very cautious for some reason.
I think it's like they have this weird mentality.
They're like seeing how casting goes, and then they'll add more stuff.
I think it's like their idea behind it is like they don't want people to go over and beyond to like. But I'm like. People do that anyway. Like people putting themselves in dangerous situations in order to get like an award. But I'm like, people do that shit anyway. Tom Cruise does it just for fun.
Yeah.
Like,
I also think I think that's a bit presumptuous of the Academy. If that's
well,
really
yeah, they're a bunch of
thinking.
assholes.
If you really think that people are so obsessed with an Oscar that they will endanger their lives more so than they're already doing to make these movies that they love so much, like you said, Tom Cruise. I bet you if somebody told Tom Cruise that like the more dangerous your stunt is, it's going to be like ineligible for Oscars if it's past this line of like you can't jump that bike off of this high mountain. It's too dangerous. You won't be eligible for an Oscar. He would still do it.
Yeah,
this guy just wants something. Tom Cruise is a bit different than other. He's like something's broken in his brain.
Something is very broken in his brain.
But I think most people just want to make great shit, which is why I'm like as we said, I think we're both really big David Leitch fans.
But also this is like
from being a stunt double.
And I think also this is not just a film like about love for stunt film. It's just like kind of a film just like you just like they just love cinema. It's like
it's
just
a love
like
for action movies in general. It's
like this love of like the creation and like kind of like the teamwork that is involved in creating art, even though they're making a very hokey film in the film itself, but it's like very clear, and it's I think the genuineness and the strive of like making stuff together is just like really the heart of this film. And I think it like that kind of like that feeling at the very end, I'm like yeah, this is like they do a good job of like representing like what crews are like. I mean, obviously there's a lot of scenes that are just batshit insane that wouldn't happen, but like the messiness is there. But like I've never seen anybody have a full-on conversation with someone during a take. Like I don't think that happens.
No, of course not.
Of course not. But
especially
there's a lot
like probably at the beginning of the movie, the most unbelievable part of the movie, that is including when two guys were fighting in a detached dump truck, is when a stuntman and a camera operator are like are flirting on an open line during a shot.
It's like it's that, but also just I think one of my notes, and Danny also had the same note about it, was just like she went from being they have a whole throwaway line about it, but she went from being a camera operator. A year later, she's directing a multi-million-dollar action film.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I think that movie was supposed to be kind of schlock garbage.
But I think it's supposed to be like a Marvel's, like it's like supposed to be one of those films in this universe.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, it looks stupid as fuck, but also the whole like we're gonna do a one.
I mean, it's Dude. We're not even trying to.
No, they weren't. It's Cowboy Dude, which I'm like also
so
like that.
Funny.
They even have like the fucking sounds too, but and also the other scene like we're gonna do a one taker. I'm like it doesn't work that way. You can't choreograph and do a one take scene in the span of 4 hours. Besides that, it's fine.
You can't.
Fuck
Emily
you.
Blunt can. Can I just quickly run down the directorial run that our boy is on right now?
Sure.
Our boy
Please do.
So he starts with Atomic Blonde in 2017. This is after he was like a big part of obviously John Wick 1 and 2.
And
he's
more than likely he ghost directed Dread as well. So.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you ghost directed it. That film apparently was a shit show, but
That doesn't surprise me. The movie's a shit show.
I love that movie.
But yeah, so he comes off obviously being Keanu's stunt double and getting like producer credits on John Wick 1 and 2. Has probably big parts of the stunt choreography on there. But that his directorial debut is an Atomic Blonde, movie that we both really love. I think I love more than maybe any human being on planet Earth. Then he follows it up with Deadpool 2. I'm just going to skip over Once Upon a Time in Deadpool. I don't think that really counts. Then Hobbs and Shaw, another movie that I love more than anybody on planet Earth.
Stupid as fuck, but it's not poorly directed. But good action. Great action in it.
So fun, yeah. Bullet Train, and then The Fall Guy. And I skipped over a couple of things that he had some like real, like he didn't direct Violent Night, but he has a producer credit on that.
On which one? On Violent Night?
Yeah. Violent Night, yeah.
Which, I mean, that also, it definitely feels kind of like
yeah,
what it is.
Yeah. That was Tommy Wirkola, who is most famous for doing Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter, as far as I'm concerned. but I would say David Leitch probably had a lot to do with that film. I think this guy right now is quickly becoming one of my favorite action directors, which is why I think it's a big bummer that his movies don't have a lot of success, because if this stuff has to get turned into like Netflix shit or he gets sent to TV, I'm gonna be real sad. I think this guy makes great big screen, big budget action movies that is still probably some of the best stuff to see in theaters. I think it's like, obviously it's the huge like massive cinematic blockbuster achievements like Dune and like Furiosa, and then the tier right below that of like stuff I need to see in theaters is the kind of movies that David Leitch is making.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I think, like, the whole, like, as you said, like, the car chase sequence when he's essentially just riding on the fucking shovel at one point. It's, like, that's fantastic. But also, yeah, like, that's also a great, I hope that dog gets a shout-out at the Palm Dog. Fantastic. Favorite joke of the film. So stupid.
Yeah. I think if you haven't seen Fall Guy, I would recommend it to pretty much anybody. I think the movie is a ton of fun. Obviously, it's probably two of our like most charismatic actors right now. But I was thinking about, this is very unrelated. We can end it after this. We're as always over on time. But I've been watching this, despite myself, been watching this truly awful show by Stephen Knight, who I love. I love Stephen Knight. I'm really sad that the show is terrible. The Veil, which is on Hulu, starring Elizabeth Moss, who is for some reason doing a British accent. Elizabeth Moss is not British and is doing like one of the worst British accents I've ever heard in my life. And the whole time I'm watching this show, I'm like, why isn't this Emily Blunt? Who is just, so Elizabeth Moss is supposed to be playing this really charismatic, cheeky spy, and is not very good at that.
I don't like her that much, honestly.
I obviously, as a Mad Men is one of the top 2 shows ever believer. I love her in Mad Men. I think she's really good in a lot of stuff. Like, she's fantastic in Top of the Lake. I think she's really good in Shirley, which is, like, I think other than her, a pretty bad movie. I obviously like don't care for her in this, but I'm not sure what she's doing either. So it's hard for me to be like, this is a bad Elizabeth Moss performance. I think she's just trying something really weird. But I just kept it just made me think while I was watching that show and while I was watching Fall Guy, we need Emily Blunt in more stuff. And also, please give us Live, Die, Repeat 2.
Please give me with just her. I don't know what the fucking plot would be, but just please.
Don't care. I don't care what the plot is. I do not give a shit.
It's actually surprising that no one's like that movie hasn't been like greenlit or whatever yet, because it's like that feels like such like a easy.
Well, you say it's surprising, but do you remember who the director of that movie is?
Doug Liman.
It's Doug Liman.
Yeah.
Doug, something's wrong with Doug Liman. I'll just say that right now.
Listen, I don't think
something's going on with him.
I don't think he's doing Roadhouse 2, but so I'm like, you got time, my brother. Go make Live, Die, Repeat 2, or
he's probably more likely to make like American Made 2.
Let's take a break.
We'll take a break. We're going to come back and talk about some other good shit.
Fly. Do you all have your feathers? Good. Now, don't forget the nice wrist movement we've been practicing. The swish and flick. Everyone? The swish and flick. Good. Oh, and enunciate. Wingardium Leviosa. Off you go then.
Wingardium Leviosa. Wingardium Leviosa.
Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
You do it then if you're so clever.
Go on. Wingardium Leviosa.
And we're back.
So,
all right, first up is, like I said, we're going to talk about the conclusion of Patrick Horvath's written and illustrated Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, like I think many months ago, back in actually 2023. We talked.
Yeah,
about
I think it was like it's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute.
But it just completed its 6-issue run a couple weeks ago, and it's just really fun. Thought it was worth talking about. We'll probably do a little bit quick because obviously we're a little over and we want to talk about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But Corey, what'd you think of this Dexter meets Animal Farm comic book?
I absolutely love this book. I thought it was just the right mix of horror, mystery, like an interesting main character, just like a really fun book that I think was just elevated by the art and like the decision that they're animals.
I think that's a big part of it. Is the art is really good, and I think the sort of like cutesy, idyllic nature of the town plays in really well with the fact that they're all like, it feels like a story.
Yeah, it feels like it feels like the Berenstain Bears basically, but like kind of like if there's someone in the town's a fucking murderer.
Wow, 2 people in the town apparently.
2 people, but it's just like very much it's like, yeah, this idyllic town, and one of them goes to the city and murders people and comes back and hangs out, and it feels very.
My only complaint, and we were talking about this in the break a bit, is that I think that the mystery is a bit rushed, only because I bet Horvath just didn't have he only had probably 6 issues to tell this story.
Yeah, the resources.
I think stretching this out into 10, 12 issues could have made it even more exciting, because I actually think the mystery part of this, when do you remember what the main character, the main bear's name is?
Samantha Strong.
When Samantha is searching for like who the serial killer is, because she's worried that their carelessness is going to
that's such a smart idea, at least for anything. Just being like, the serial killer's got to go capture the other serial killer so they can protect their own ass. I'm like, you don't have to like the main character, but it's such a fun like detective character to kind of like follow along in this type of story, that it's like, because it could have just been like cutesy town, someone trying to find the murderer, but this is like a hat on top of a hat. And I wanted more of that. And I was even more disappointed when I learned it was just 6 issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is like a lot of really like interesting storytelling stuff going on here, because Horvath has this idea of this town that is, I think, mirrors a lot of small town America, where there's a lot of people who are maybe two-faced, for lack of a better word, or really nice to your face, and behind closed doors are not who you think they are. It's like you think you know all your neighbors, but you know what they tell you about them. And could you be living next to a bear that is a serial killer, or even worse, a mouse? I think who is like a worse serial killer.
But I think my favorite issue was like where like, because now she's investigating the town, figuring out things, and she's following along a woman who runs a butcher shop after her late husband died. Really good. And like she thinks this woman's the killer the entire time, but later on learns that it's just like she has this weird, like she hasn't gotten over her husband and basically sleeps with a mannequin in his clothing.
Not enough made of that scene, I think.
No.
I think everybody waves it off like, oh, this is normal, when actually I think we should definitely be keeping our eye on that person.
I do. I 100% believe that person's going to kill someone. I did love that scene though, where pretty much like, we're just not going to talk.
Gun.
It's like, it's like, we're not going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about this. And that's how it ends. But I think that does play into the whole, like, we don't know who each other are. And I think when you peel back the layers on like such like what looks to be a very cutesy town, and kind of starting to see the insidious layers that can surround it, would make it a lot more interesting. Like, I would love to see more of like the sheriff character, or like some.
That was my biggest complaint about the pacing of it, is that we don't actually get any of the cops actually getting that close to Samantha as a suspect.
I would love just another like. I think whenever this comes out, collected edition, definitely pick it up. This is fantastic.
I think even just for the art alone, but
just for the art alone, I think it's fantastic. Like one of the things, I think we've had this before, where my main complaint about something is that I don't have more of it, and I wanted a longer version of this. But I'm gonna keep an eye out on Patrick Horvath. But yeah, this blew me away with this first series. But yeah,
I will not pretend to understand the economics of comic books and graphic novels enough to really know the answer to this question. But I wonder, do you think there's a version of this where he can tell the story in full? Although, listen, maybe this is the exact amount of issues that Horvath wanted.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing based on the pacing of the story that he probably could have done with more. But I wonder, do you think if this was a single, like a book, if he had released a big collected book instead of doing issue by issue, he could have told a more complete story, or more, not complete, because it does have a beginning, middle, and end, is a satisfying ending. I want to be like a more expansive story if he'd just done a single release graphic novel.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I would love to know the upfront versus like, you know, week to week sales and like how that works for him, because I think there is a version of this. This is like a 200-page book that is I mean, probably more than that actually, because we probably have about 200 pages.
It's just nuts that he wrote and drew this, and it's so good about both. This is I think it's his only comic. And
at least, unless he started something that we missed when we looked in his first issue, he had written a couple episodes of TV, I think, and then one novella or a short book. I'm not remembering now, but he this is one of his only things he'd ever done. So yeah, I think he.
Yeah, but also
first comic, what a fantastic entry into the medium for sure.
Yeah, no, really cool. I mean, honestly, I'm keeping an eye on him. Seems like he has a very interesting career, and it's always nice to see people in the industry just do a bunch of random shit. Like, he's also like a production manager or special effects director occasionally, but
yeah,
cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes before we
the #1 movie in America until Anya Taylor-Joy comes and fucking hits it in the face with a car.
Oh, another guy with a fake nose. Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, does he have a fake nose? I haven't seen.
It's
very good about not watching any of the trailers.
I mean, I think the good thing about those trailers, I feel like George Miller knows not to spoil much, and I think, and he's very.
I also think, based on if this movie's anything like Mad Max Fury Road, there's not like a big plot to spoil.
No,
I would
and
think.
Also, yeah, we know the ending basically, so it's like we know that this is a prequel, so
right,
I think we'll be okay.
Shocker! Furiosa's gonna survive this one, guys.
Oh man.
What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day! Are we thankful for the words of Caesar? We are thankful. Do we bend our heads? We bend. Say his words. Say his words! What a wonderful day!
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the most recent reboot or whatever you want to call it in the Planet of the Apes series, a 300-year jump in the future after the end of the Matt Reeves War of the Planet of the Apes film. We encounter Noah, who is a young ape who is part of the bird people. I don't remember exactly what they were called.
Eagle Clan. I don't know why I remember.
Eagle Clan. There you go. The Eagle Clan, and his clan is invaded and taken away by a invading horde who works for or is a follower of Proximus Caesar, who is actually probably for me the most interesting part of this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say Proximus fucking slaps. I love Proximus.
Yeah. And along the way, to save his family, Noah encounters Raka, a orangutan who, again, is one of the more interesting parts of the movie, and is, I would say, unceremoniously dispatched.
And we didn't see a body.
It's true. I think we're safe to say Raka's didn't make it. I don't.
Yeah.
And Human May, who I have thoughts on. But let's get your general thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes first before we delve into the more specific stuff. So, Corey, what did you think of this most recent installment in the Apes?
I fucking loved it. And I think I saw some people who had like a different like kind of reactions about being like I feel like it didn't hit as hard as the original ones, and I'm like, I think I'm okay with that. That it wasn't like the same type of like film.
Yeah, I think we would say of the 4 modern Apes movies, we can all agree this is, well, I say we all, as in the two of us, agree this is the 4th best.
I think it's, but I don't think it's a far and away.
No, I think those 3 are really, really good movies.
I think I had more fun. I think the first one is so many great in the reboots. I think the first one is so good because of that moment, and it's like that moment makes the film, in my opinion, where he says no, and it's just like, oh shit, this is like actually like it's not just smart monkeys, but like it's.
Well, I agree with you in that moment is a big part, but I think a big part of the difference between the success of this movie and success of the original trilogy, original reboot trilogy. I don't know. You guys know what we're talking about.
Just say original. We know what we all know.
You guys know what we're talking about. Is that I think, despite the fact that I actually think Owen Teague is quite a good performer, I've liked him in almost everything I've seen. I think there's a big difference between Teague and Andy Serkis, who is maybe the best to ever do this.
I don't think anyone's ever gonna beat Serkis.
No, I think Serkis, not just in his performance, but in his ability to like turn Caesar into this really complex character that over the course of those movies we see develop like a personality and a belief structure. And
I mean, even like watching those films back to back too, and kind of just seeing like the way that Caesar like stands towards the end, like just like kind of the body language that they use, like that he uses in those films. It's just like the silent progression of this character, where Noah is already kind of a realized person, and we're kind of seeing more like less of this like evolution of a character as like becoming like this sentient creature, and more of like Noah learning as a bit more of like, so this story is like very like, it's an adventure film, but it feels like something that's like, I'm sure it borrowed from some other film where
it's like a pretty boilerplate adventure film.
It is.
I think I'm with you that I don't think I like this movie as much as you did. I would not say that I loved it. I thought it was I really enjoyed it. I texted you afterward that this movie has no right being as good as it is, and it hit me like a week later. And I think I actually texted you this too as a note for myself, thinking about this. The movie that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is quite similar to in my mind is actually Black Panther 2. And remember what we said about Black Panther 2 when we came out of it, is we were like, that movie was good, like a B+, B- movie, but it was probably way better than it ever had any right to be, considering the circumstances of that film. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is obviously very different. Is not like embroiled in tragedy the same way that Black Panther 2 was, but I think that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, for a movie that is essentially no people, we have one person who is, I would argue, not really a character. I said that the weakest part of this movie is May. Is the first movie that we have in this most recent reboot. Let's basically all apes. It looks incredible. I think it's nuts how good this movie looks.
Yeah, I'm excited. CGI. I mean, like I'm excited to see more of Wes Bell. Like, like very like quiet and like mediocre films before this. Apparently, he's like doing The Legend of Zelda.
Hold on, mediocre. You're not a Maze Runner head, Corey?
Bad films. I read that book series, and I'm still mad about that.
Well, he's not only doing Legend of Zelda, which I am not excited for. I do not care about the live.
I don't excited for it, but I mean, I think it'll at least be like fun to look at.
The movie looks incredible, and I think the action is actually really well done. The action set piece at the end of this movie is really quite well executed, despite the fact that the whole time I was thinking, I don't know what anybody's fighting for. That's my problem with this movie, is that I loved a lot of parts of it, but I think it has some pretty glaring flaws, including the biggest flaw to me is that it feels like the first movie in every Marvel trilogy. It's real origin story vibes where we're setting up.
Clearly
the most important part of the plot is in the last 4 minutes of this movie.
I mean, it's a hero's journey.
I know, but
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm just saying, for better or worse, I mean, that's exactly what this film is.
Yeah. And I think, but it's a weird, like, what did you think about the way this movie ended? We're gonna do a bit of spoiling here, but the way that it ended, setting up the coming movies, which this will get sequels because this movie was very successful. What did you think about the end of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I'm disappointed that they killed off Proximus. Like, that's like, because that character was my favorite part of the film, and I would have loved for him to be.
I think he's of the idea, like the thing that's cool about these all Planet of the Apes movies, all 11 of them, except for the Tim Burton one, is they all have really cool ideas in them about society, about the world that they're trying to portray. The Proximus is clearly the most interesting idea. I mean, it's this idea that like the cycle of brutality in human history is literally repeating itself. We're in the conqueror's age again. Although I have other question for you really quick.
Yeah.
Then we'll circle back to the original one is, have these apes evolved enough in 300 years? It's kind of weird how little they've evolved, right? 300 years is a long fucking time.
You know, I mean, I'm not smart enough to give you an accurate answer about that, to be honest.
I just remember thinking, like, I remember thinking the whole movie, like, didn't Caesar, like, end that movie with having, like, kind of civilization already set up? And, like,
no, I mean, they end up in a big old field in the end.
Yeah, they end up in a, like, but Caesar remembers when there was, like, Uber.
Like, Caesar's dead.
I know, but I'm just saying, Caesar's dead 300 years ago. These guys couldn't have, like, they live in huts again.
But I guess the whole thing about it is like, if there was no uniting of, like...
Sure, yes.
I think that's kind of what the idea behind the king... Like, that's a whole, like, maybe the end thing about Kingdom is that, like, the juxtaposition of, like, this ape... When this ape destroyed the version of a kingdom there because he believed it was wrong. And bringing people in through slavery is not a good thing. Of
course.
Obviously not. But it's like kind of like counterpoint of him basically destroying this kingdom, separating his people again. And May's character, who is now uniting people again, is probably just kind of like a very like interesting thing because, you know, I'm listening to these movies. I'm Team Ape. Fuck the human. We had our time. I'm done with us.
Not just you. I think the movies are Team Ape.
Oh yeah, no.
Until the end of this one. That's why I thought the end was very weird. I guess because do we care that the humans are trying to fight for this planet again?
Honestly, to me, the humans coming back to me is more like foreboding of being like, oh, there's going to be another. We don't know how the series ends, but I'm assuming it's going to end the same like kind of civilization that the original started in. Yeah. Or like at least that's the direction. I don't know if they're going to go in a different way of it, or maybe like
I'm not clear what the timeline is versus like I don't think these movies are technically like in the same canon as the original.
I don't think so. I think they're like following similar things, but I don't think it's like the same canon. I think it takes a lot from them, but it doesn't like really. I don't think
there was a part of me for a second when she plugged the satellite key in. I thought she was about to hit up like Charlton Heston's spaceship, and I was like, that would have been kind of cool.
Okay, here's the thing about it, though. As I was rewatching the original does have a scene where a spaceship does get lost.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so I think at some point, I think we're going to follow back around and maybe end the series on a similar, like...
I'm just wondering how they're going to get Monkey Lincoln in.
I can't believe they did that still. It was such an insane decision.
I can't wait to talk about that fucking scene.
God fucking damn it. But I don't know. I think to me it's like a very I'm interested to see where they're going, because I guess the themes of where this is going is like, can these two people coexist? And I did like the ending, at least between May and Noah, where it's just like, instead of having like the happy reunion and be like good to see you, it's basically being like, if I see you again, we're probably just gonna have to kill each other kind of vibe. And I did enjoy that.
Which is I guess I did not grasp enough of what May's motivation was or Noah's motivation was throughout this movie to really understand their ultimate conflict. Like I sort of get it. Like he sees this book where humans kept monkeys in cages, and then he's lied to by May. But I mean,
multiple times.
Yeah, I don't know. I found that like it had a lot of it really rested on a lot of its laurels in the storytelling here. That he has a lot of complex ideas maybe that are not exactly executed on screen.
I guess that's fair. I don't know. At least I was able to tell what May's like motivation was. It's like, you mean you don't understand her entirely until she does the handoff at the end, but like in my
not even understand. That's not the right word. Maybe not putting the words to my feelings correctly. Mm-hmm. I think that I don't know. I just don't buy the May character did not compel me the way that previous human characters in this iteration of Planet of the Apes have, and it feels actually a lot closer to the human characters in the original Planet of the Apes, which was just like, here's this hot, like literally the name Nova is a reference to the Nova character in the original Planet of the Apes movie, played by Linda Harrison.
Not only that, but like
sits there and does nothing, and she's just like a hot woman there. And I'm not saying like May clearly is not that, but it feels closer to that than.
I think that's where they want to. I think that's what they want to make the films do, though. I think they want you to be like, this is about the monkeys. It's not about the humans. And I think that's kind of like where like each film is becoming less and less about them. And like the first one, James Franco had a big subplot. The second one, Jason Clarke. Is that the actor who was in it? He had a great plot.
And,
I thought
and Kerry Russell, right?
Yeah, I think they had a fantastic. That was my favorite human story out of it. But then by the third one, it's just Woody Harrelson.
I actually really like Woody Harrelson.
I think he's great, but he's mostly just like he's just the bad guy. He's like less of like being like a character at that point.
He's not as complex as.
And I think this is like, at least with this one, it's like the focus in the film's eye is this guy's trying to rescue his family, but in the background you have another character with a separate motivation to do that. And I do agree with you. I like the idea behind May more than the execution. I think I like the whole like,
which I think is a lot about the fact that her story isn't starting until the next movie, which is why I was called like.
Well, I don't even. Okay. Well, I guess the director did say that. I was curious about that because I mean, basically, she's like committed suicide basically by like going out like and doing this mission like, but I don't. I'm wondering how that's. Huh?
Has she?
I mean, that's the question though. So like, we don't know how it works. Like, I guess like, but at least to me, it's like she can never go back to her home, which I'm assuming she was a bunker person.
It seems that way, and then when they meet her, they're in.
So I mean, like, I guess let's.
But I would think if you've made it 300 years, like, there's probably some humans with immunity to.
That makes sense. Yeah, but I guess it's more about like, I guess you just can't come back anymore. I guess less. I was thinking about, I guess when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, I guess she's just gonna go like lose her mind. But I'm assuming, and I saw the director have a note about like their storyline's gonna continue, the relationship between her and Noah. So I guess she'll probably keep her into.
She has to be in the next movies. I love that it ended in such like a very standoffish kind of like moment though between the two of them. I think that might have been my favorite like scene. And I mean like he's no Andy Serkis, but I really did like Noah's performance. But like I thought he was fantastic. I hope I'm not giving off the impression I didn't like this movie. I think this movie
No, I don't think you are.
Good. I think that first trilogy that that ends in War of the Planet is like kind of a miracle. It's like insane how good those movies are. And this movie's pretty fantastic, but I just don't think it's like it does not live up to those three, and certainly obviously not up to the original, which is one of the one of those
I guess I don't know. I guess like I knew it was gonna be a film in this franchise in the universe, but like when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this is just an adventure film, and I just stopped comparing it at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's probably the smarter move, is that this actually is not really. I mean, they did a huge time jump and recast the entire movie for a reason. Like, we're in the same sort of universe, we're in the same sort of IP.
But now we're like,
movies, but we're not.
But now we're telling different.
It's not the Caesar story.
Yeah, I think now we're telling different stories. It's like kind of like. Another like I'm trying to think of another thing, but it's like if you already have an established universe and like like Star Wars, whatever.
This is very similar to the.
Like now that you have your universe, like you can just have like your Mandalorian basically, where it's like this character who's just doing shit in this universe, but he's not like causing a Planet of the Apes films where like this is just a war and this is like such a like this is so important.
I agree.
And
it just feels to me like this movie is a lot like the Last Jedi. In the Star Wars
I get what you're
analogy,
saying.
While like the original trilogy is like Andor. Is like it has the original trilogy has so many cool ideas, and this one is like pretty boilerplate by the numbers action movie, which is fun. We literally just talked about how we like action movies.
It's like funny. I guess like I don't think of this in the same critical sense that I think of the other ones in, but I thought it was still very good, and I guess like I just accepted it for what it is. And it didn't feel like it was trying to, and I think in a way, I think it's smart for Wes to not just want to just redo and like a retread the prequels.
For sure. Yeah. I don't think you could. I don't think without Serkis, who is in a lot of ways probably the most instrumental part of that movie. Like, shout out to Matt Reeves. Shout out to Rupert Wyatt. Well, great directors. I think without Andy Serkis, those movies just don't work at all.
I think
he's the through line through that entire thing. I think without Andy Serkis, you're not making any movies as good as that. So that's probably why I like you should probably just be like, this is something different, and accept that it's going to be different and like good in its own way. And I think this movie is really fun, and I will see the next one. That's not like I'm going to see the next movie. So
next movie, I don't give a shit how you do it. Proximus survived. Figure it out, movie. I don't care how you do it.
Honestly, maybe the first time, and I'm sure he's a very nice guy, maybe the first time I've ever liked Kevin Durant in a movie.
I looked up and I'm like, yo, this guy's fucking great. What is he? I'm like, this motherfucker did this?
he's always been, but I think the problem is that he's always been cast as like true shithead evil villain guy. But I remember the first time I ever saw him was in Walking Tall, the Rock movie. He's just like a faceless henchman in that movie.
I watched Abigail, and he's just like a dumb, like Canadian
so you're the guy
dude.
that watched Abigail.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, mostly because Dan Stevens is chewing the fucking scenery with the most insane Queen's accent of all time. I recommend the movie just for Dan Stevens.
I mean, it's got an interesting cast. I like Dan Stevens. I obviously love Giancarlo Esposito. I like Matthew Good.
Yeah, it's a good. No, I think
August Cloud.
Abigail's a good time. And what's her name? Not the main girl, but the
Melissa Barrera.
No, not her. What's the other? Well, the little girl's great. The little girl's great, but like the other.
Melissa Barrera's not the little girl. Little girl's.
No, the little girl's great. Melissa Barrera's great, and the other woman is also like fantastic.
Catherine Newton.
Yes, she needs to be in more things. She is
from Detective Pikachu.
She's fucking funny. She's very good in horror films.
She's quite good. I mean,
she's very.
She got me through almost all of Lisa Frankenstein.
How bad was it?
It's not good. I'll say that. It's not good.
I was kind of pulling for that with like a whole like maybe it'll be like a like spiritual sequel to Jennifer's Body, but it.
I don't like the Sprouse brothers. and
on that note,
there's a lot of Sprouse brothers in that movie.
And then on that note,
just a reminder, we are going to be talking more apes next episode, so don't forget to subscribe.
Let's fucking go.
Over there on your podcast app, over there on YouTube, we're going to be talking about Tim Burton's absolute disastrous.
Same ape time, same ape channel.
Same ape place. Also, just a reminder, if you're reading along, which you don't need to watch along, we're going to do all the watching for you for Tim Burton. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't watch this.
But if you're reading along, which you should, we're doing From Hell by Alan Moore. I would start that now because it's a beefy one, but it is very good. We're going to be talking
I'll
about
start
that.
reading.
It's a very good. I would say. Ooh, I was gonna go super hard and say it's my favorite Alan Moore book. I'm not. It's up there. It's certainly.
Okay. Please don't say that because does that mean I have to reread Watchmen again for the 20th time? Which I always
love,
enjoy.
I love Watchmen, but
I love Watchmen. I just don't know if I want to. I got a lot of shit I got to watch.
Honestly, for me, it's always been between From Hell and The Killing Joke, which I know is like a sick man's answer, and I'm a sick man, so
you're a sick man.
I'm a sick man.
I've never read From Hell, so I'm interested to kind of go into it.
It's really good. We're talking about that. Just last points of business, of course, at Next Time on Pod, all over the place. Links are in all the descriptions. If you're wherever you're watching, just go follow us, go subscribe, like over there on YouTube, all that good shit. Anything else for the people, Corey?
Nothing else for me.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.